Today in class, we learned all about the hashtag MathWave to solve division problems. If you remember, we talked about how for our hashtag, we want the middle section to be larger than the top and the bottom. For tonight's problem, I will be using the following problem as my example. 432 divided by 4. Now remember, in our top left corner, we have the hundreds. I'm going to write H for hundreds. In the center part, I have the tens, T, which represents tens. And lastly, in my far right-hand corner, I have the units, or the ones. I'm going to write a O for ones column. As you notice, the H corresponds with the 4 standing for 400. The T corresponds with the 3 for the tens column, meaning 30. And we have the ones column, the 2, which represents 2. So let's get started with the hundreds column. I can write in my 4. And for my tens, I can write in my 3. And my ones I can write in the 2. Now our first question is, how many times can I take 4 out of 4? If I were to have 4 pencils, 1, 2, 3, 4, and divide them between 4 people, each person would get 1. So it's clear that if we divided 4 into 4, it would be 1 per group. And when we multiplied our 1 times our 4, we used 4 all together. Think about it as there's 4 groups and there's 1 pencil per group, so that means there has to be 4 used all together. I will then subtract my 4, and I have 0 left. Let me move on to the tens column. The tens column is right here, and we have a 3 in the tens column. Now this is when things get a little bit tricky. If you were to imagine that I had 3 pencils and I had to divide them between 4 equal groups, it would be impossible to divide the 3 pencils between 4 groups. Now what I can do is if I'm not able to make a combination with the tens, I can turn these tens, this 3 which represents 30, into ones which represent 30. So I will draw an arrow down, and I'm going to write 3 tens equal 30 ones, and that's an O down there. That's an O, not a 0. 30 ones. Those are the same thing. I'm going to then draw an arrow up, and I'm going to add my 30 ones onto the 2 that I already have. Now, 5th graders, you're probably noticing at this moment that I made a big mistake. When I was lining up my 2 numbers, I put the 2 in the tens place. So I'm going to cross this out, and I'm going to show you the correct way to write this. 2 plus 30. See how my units line up and my tens line up as well. When I add these together, I have 32. Now my question is, how many times can 4 fit into 32? Now, if you know your times tables, which I know all of you do, you would know that 4 times 8 equals 32. So my mystery number is 8. The answer is 8. I can fit 4 into 32 8 times. Now, is my answer 18? No. Because I wasn't able to do anything in the tens, I just leave it as a 0. The correct answer to the problem 432 divided by 4 is 108. Now some of you are still skeptical. You say, Mr. Weiner, I am not positive that you are correct. So I will prove to you here that it is correct. Taking 108, I'm going to do some work in this box down on the left-hand side. I'm going to take 108 and multiply by 4. I'm going to use the algorithm that we learned earlier in the school year. 4 times 8 equals 32. I write my 3 above and my 2 below. Now I have 4 times 0, which is 0, but I need to add my 3. So I have 3 altogether. And 4 times my 1 is 4. The way that I can check now is if this number matches this. And they do, so my answer is correct. Now some problems that I will give you don't have the hundreds, tens, and ones place. It might have the thousands, hundreds, tens, and ones place. So it's then important to use 4 different areas. Sometimes if you have a remainder, which we talked about in class, I said it was okay if you leave a remainder at the end of the problem if you need one, you actually can work on beyond, and we will be talking about that in future classes. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a better understanding of how to use #DivisionMath.